Hello, welcome to the podcast of Startup Recruitment Failures. I'm Indra, founder and CEO of JobRely. We're building LinkedIn automation platform for outbound recruitment. And today my guest is Egle Tumenaite, CEO and co-founder at CornerCase Technologies. Egle, could you please introduce yourself and your company?
Hi, Indra. First of all, thank you for inviting me to share CornerCase Technologies story and also my story in recruitment. So I'm Egle. I'm a co-founder of CornerCase Technologies. Myself and three other co-founders, we started this company 6 years ago. And we are a tech company. We are on the mission to inspire digital transformation and give our clients to create scalable tech products and essentially bring their vision to life. So we do software development and also we create our own products.
What products are you developing?
So currently we have two products in our portfolio. So one is in agriculture. We developed a platform for farmers to find and rent heavy machinery. And another product is in travel industry, which helps to experience the travel destinations using locals' recommendations.
Great. Awesome. Very interesting. And what are the recruitment lessons you learned?
Well, that's a great question. It's actually, I don't even know where to start. We had many lessons in recruitment and not only in recruitment. And, when you start a business, you essentially wear many hats and it's inevitable. Mm-hmm. And at some point, I also acted as a HR manager. I was headhunting developers on LinkedIn. I was doing a lot of content creation, product management, client relations. You can name many things. Mm-hmm. So in the beginning, when you're new to the business that you're running, essentially, you don't really know what you're doing. And, you keep doing it and you fail and you learn and you fail and you learn. And it actually might seem that you're going in circles, then in fact, you're making a massive progress and in your understanding and your practices. Mm-hmm. So then I thought about, recruitment when you asked me to join the podcast today. Mm-hmm. I was really going through my memories and what certain experiences and situations meant, to me and to the company. So first of all, I can tell that there were situations where I felt a bit uncomfortable when hiring because when company grew, right now we have 50 people, including our, internal products teams. So when you grow a company, essentially you run into situations where you have to hire someone for a new function. Mm-hmm. And typically, that's a function that you're not an expert in. So when you need to hire someone like that, none of us internally have the experience in the field, and we can basically rely only on that single person that we are thinking to recruit. Mm-hmm. And you base your decisions on simply a gut feeling, pure trust on someone that you barely know. Mm-hmm. And I found this quite difficult psychologically and also, uncomfortable, I could say. Mm-hmm. So that's probably one thing. And I guess it applies to any company, unless you, I guess, look for an external, advisor or a company. But as CornerCase Technologies, in 6 years, we never really had any external investment. So a lot of the work that we do, we try to do using our, internal resources, or, we just try and see that we succeed, basically.
Yeah, but even if you have an external help, still, it's you who has to make the decision, right? So could you share a specific example of the hire you have in mind?
Yes. So a year ago, we decided that we would try to capture and assess more procurement projects because we were successful with one. We did price comparison tool for basically electricity ministry in energy ministry in Lithuania. Mm-hmm. And we realized that actually we could do more in this field. We can actually look for more projects because they're very interesting. We can actually contribute to basically the local market more, we can show our expertise. So we try to do it ourselves. until we realized that, the amount of time it takes really to do the assessment, to pick and choose what actually works for us, it was really overwhelming. So we realized that we really need to find someone who is knowledgeable about the field, who knows the legal side of things, because there's a lot of legal documents you have to read and etc. So we decided that we would look for a procurement specialist. And when we start looking for someone new, we obviously do a lot of research on what are the typical skills that you need in that person to fill in that position. So we started with that, and we started getting quite a few applications, which was somewhat unusual for us because in IT, you really struggle to get a lot of attention from candidates, as you probably know. So that was tough. And we found someone where we felt like this is someone we can trust because that candidate demonstrated really great work ethic, which is very important. And sometimes I think it's overlooked in the recruitment process. Huge responsibility demonstrated in the previous company, very clear reasoning why this person is changing industry, which also might appear as a red flag because industries can differ so much that it can actually affect the performance of the candidate, I think. So that was also a risk, but it's just sometimes you really can't explain. Sometimes you feel like you like that person and you just have this unexplainable trust and you just have to give it a try. So it felt uncomfortable because we couldn't really assess much, we don't have a very kind of structured process in place how to hire a procurement specialist, because that was the first hire. And also it was very critical for that person to realize that they are coming to a company where they wouldn't find another procurement specialist in-house, which also means if they had to look for an advice, professional advice, it wouldn't be that role specific. It can be maybe project specific or something like that. But that person would basically be alone in that function, Of course, there are other functions involved because we still work with IT projects. So procurement specialists work very closely with the tech team, the sales team. But still, when we speak about procurement, that's the only person. Yeah. So this is where probably some of the doubts or uncomfortable situations came from.
And how did it go?
Excellent. We are so happy with the hire. It's just a huge success because not only that person is indeed really good at what they do, but also it's a great cultural fit, amazing energy, and we're happy with the hire. The only thing that I mentioned before was transitioning to a different industry meant also for that person really learning a lot about IT field, understanding what different technologies are used for. Probably it was challenging for both sides, but it was still worth it.
Great. So it was basically that gut feeling which helped you to decide to hire that person.
Absolutely. I mean, we are hiring people. They are specialists in one field or another, but at the end of the day, it's a person who has also a character, maybe, some values that they have, or, it can really be felt in daily interactions.
What about the failures when listening to that gut feeling you had?
Oh, yeah. So maybe I'll tell a story about the highlight of the failures that we had. But again, when I think about failures, it's never just a failure. It's also the learning that follows. And for me, failure really changed its meaning over the last 5 years, I guess. And I don't want to move away from the question, but essentially it's now being celebrated. And it's not that we are ashamed of this failure. We actually are proud that we did it, because failing also shows that you are trying hard enough, because if you're not failing in anything, you're probably not really doing much.
Exactly.
So having this mindset really helps. So looking back in the last several years, probably a lot of IT companies have experienced very exhausted and limiting market in IT recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that a lot of companies felt it because there were so much cheap money pumped into the system. And of course, in COVID times, a lot of companies started digitalization processes, and no surprise, it made a massive impact on IT talent availability.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a lot of experimentation. We tried hiring abroad, finding some contractors, growing talent internally, and we're still doing all those experimentations. But we also feel like we found our way of doing it that works for us the best.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, at that time, a year ago, last summer, we felt so much pressure to hire, and also our HR department felt a lot of pressure. We had exact numbers that we needed to hit because in our business that was critical. It's very two-sided business. You have to grow talent and also your client base.
Mm-hmm.
If one of them is kind of lagging behind, it's really a huge risk for the company.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided that we would look for developers in Ukraine in summer 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So looking back now, it really seems like a blind game that we tried to play because, first of all, Ukraine was really unfamiliar market for us. However, it was known that it's so rich in IT talent because it's just such a popular kind of field to go after, at uni, and when they graduate, they're very, hardworking people. So there's this, kind of perception that we have about Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not wrong. It's really rich in IT talent. However, it's also the destination that a lot of countries are looking at, So you're competing with large companies from US, from, like many other countries, and huge companies with massive budgets. So that was one thing, or maybe a misconception that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was that we had to find a recruiter who would look for talent in Ukraine. And that was probably the biggest challenge we ran into because we were looking, but not a lot of people were kind of coming back to us. And the ones that were, they either really struggled with English, or it's just, after the first interview, you felt like it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And we essentially also were feeling a lot of time pressure, so we had to act fast.
Mm-hmm.
And we essentially decided to choose one person who appeared to be the best from the candidates we had. Her English was actually really good. She worked in recruitment for years and in HR function in general.
Mm-hmm.
However, she was coming from construction industry.
Mm-hmm.
And we were not sure how much of the impact that would make because at the end of the day, it's the recruitment, but what role does the industry play in this sense?
Mm-hmm.
And what we learned, it was a massive role because the recruitment process is just quite different, I would say. And after, to jump to the end of the story, basically after 5 or 6 months of trying to recruit someone in Ukraine, we didn't hire a single person.
After 6 months?
After 6 months of recruitment. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that we didn't have candidates.
Mm-hmm.
However, we didn't end up hiring anyone. So you can imagine how frustrating that was for us. And of course, I have to explain why it was like that. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, our recruitment process was quite lengthy. And that was really the worst timing because when you're very selective, you actually also want a lot from the candidate. Mm-hmm. But quality was always our number one priority because in a business like ours, we cannot afford to have underperforming individuals whose skills and experience doesn't reach the level we're looking for. So it has to be really someone that can demonstrate, if not the skills that we've developed already, but at least that they have the potential and interest in that. And in Ukraine, we had, I guess, maybe 8 candidates that we were really interested in and ready to hire. However, those candidates basically were so overwhelmed by the amount of offers that they were getting at that time that sometimes, they would come across as a bit arrogant. But I guess it's also kind of in an environment like that, you're also as a developer trying to really choose the best option because you have so many to choose from. Mm-hmm. So all these things together really led us to realizing that this is not the best place, or at least not how we were doing it, and this is not going to work. Another thing to mention is that we at that time we didn't have a physical office, and a year ago, obviously, it was very common to work from home. But I guess for people, it's also a proof that you're a legit company if you have a physical location in that country, or at least that they can go to that place if they wanted, or, just for simple things like meet up with the HR person or maybe collect the laptop or things like that. So that's just something that also came across as a kind of a frequent feedback from candidates. So to sum up, hiring in a market you don't really know well, also have to find a recruiter, and it's tough. And also in difficult times when you don't have an office there, it can be a huge, huge challenge.
And why do you think that the failure was hiring that specific recruiter? What did you notice? What were your expectations and what did you get?
Well, it's difficult to say. You can't only judge always just by the result that they produce,
Right, because there are so many other elements.
Yeah, because if you look at the numbers, she didn't hire anyone. And we could be, very kind of blind and say, oh, she was not maybe qualified. And I believe that there are a lot of companies or people that would think this way. However, I really saw that she was genuinely trying, she was working a lot. She was really showing her efforts. But also at the same time, she was very frustrated. And maybe the support that she was getting from our team sometimes wasn't enough, because at the end of the day, it felt like sometimes individual departments might be trying to achieve different things, which is an issue in probably not aligning the teams really, because everyone understands that we need to hire, but IT team, our tech team would always be looking to hire the best people, because essentially they would be the ones working with them directly. So we don't want to hire someone for a mid or senior role when they have to tell them how things are working.
And so you mentioned that maybe the issue was that the recruiter was from a different industry, that the recruitment process is different in comparison. Like one is in construction, another one is in IT sector. So what differences do you see, and what were your recruiter saying about this?
So basically, the key difference is that the task that you have to perform, it has to be industry specific. So recruiters obviously are not the ones that kind of work on the task, or they're just kind of like this sourcing person who brings the candidates, and then it's our job to really assess that person. So I guess a lot of things came maybe being from a different industry, having different expectations, because the talent market is different in construction versus how it is in IT. And when I mentioned the lengthy process, typically, when we have the initial call with the recruiter, the candidate, another step is to try to convince them to do a test task, or at least to demonstrate how they would do things, maybe show some work that they've done, maybe some repo that we could review and see how would they go about different situations in development. So this is very important to us, because I think the worst things that can happen is really like bad hire, when you hire someone who is maybe not that good, and then you really try to make something out of it, and maybe it was a bad day for that person, and then you realize, actually now we spent this much time on trying to figure out how this person would perform in reality, and actually it's not performing well. And the task was supposed to be the red flag, but we didn't look at it.
Yeah, well, how I see it is in other industries, the recruitment is more as a selection process, right? So you post the job ad, maybe you contact them, the candidates directly, but still you are selecting. So this is the main focus here. When it comes to the IT sector, it's pure headhunting. So you are selling your company, your job opening, you're convincing that you are the best option a candidate could choose. So it's a totally different story. You have to be a salesperson first, and just then a recruiter who is capable to select the best candidate out of the possible candidacies. And also the process itself, when it comes to the construction, you can post the job ad or you can send the email. When it comes to IT specialist or managers search, it's usually LinkedIn, and it's a very hectic work, very active approach of attracting candidates. So you need to follow up again, to offer it, to have a very short call just to present the company. Yeah, so it's I believe it's a very different way of approaching and engaging candidates.
Absolutely. And you've wrapped it up very nicely. And you mentioned that it's really selling the company, which I couldn't agree more. And in fact, she was, for certain roles, she was doing the same job, headhunting, specifically for the project managers. But looking back, I think it was a combination of many things, and that was the result of it. But at the end of the day, we don't regret. It was kind of like an experiment we ran. It was a lot of new learnings, and we're happy we did it.
Yeah, and also I think that IT itself, it's a very fast-moving industry, and people are very making all the decisions are like very fast at everything, right? So when it comes to recruitment, you have to act very fast. You found the candidate, you gave a task, candidate performed the task, and then you make the decision, because it's 2 weeks and the candidate is gone because the other company reacted faster, right? So it's a really numbers and time game. So yeah, it's really challenging. So what is the solution you found after that? What were the steps you took afterwards?
Yeah, so as you said, it's a race. So, what we decided to do after is to really kind of embrace I guess, what we specialize in as a company. And as a tech company, we work with Python in the backend. And to be honest, there aren't that many companies that specifically work with Python. So we started looking into our local community, and really engaging with the people in the community, exchanging ideas. We also attend the conferences, PyCon, for example, in Lithuania. We were a Keystone speaker, sponsor. So we really try to be part of that community so that they can see us more. Because before we even at this point, we don't really spend massive budgets on marketing or advertising where, we're everywhere flashy and everyone knows us, We received more interest, we started receiving applications slowly but steadily. It was still a change. And another thing that we started doing was we started organizing internship programs, which were directed to people looking to transition to IT. So we basically designed a program which allows not only, learn practical things, but also learn from our projects and do a lot of, practical tasks. And it was really kind of scary in the beginning because we had this internal, maybe thinking that, when you have a bunch of juniors, it's going to be very difficult to add them to the team because our team is not, 500 people. And that was probably something that we were doubting about, but we had to try it because that's also our thinking. You have to run an experiment and see how it goes, So we did the first round last year, end of the year, and it was a really fast project. We had 2 weeks to kick off the thing. We brought everyone together from the front-end team and we sat down and we laid down the timelines, how our schedule would look like, what do we need to teach, how many people we're expecting to hire at the end of it. Because, you have to really think about the team composition in our team. You can't just have, a team of juniors working on a project. It's not going to work. So it's really like calculating the proportions, the time that the seniors would need to allocate to those juniors, because they need a lot of guidance and someone helping them, someone, spending their time and advising. So yeah, we did the first round it was quite a lot of interested people, actually. We had maybe 60, 70 people that responded, but we were looking to have 8 people in the group because we wanted to keep it small, but very attentive. And we also wanted them to get a lot of attention, because if it's a large group, sometimes people feel very uncomfortable asking questions. You know how it works. If it's 50 people or 100, you feel like, oh, I don't want to ask, maybe it's a stupid question. So it's just a different environment. And what we created was very intimate, like very small. Everyone kind of knew each other quite well, after the program. And then we ended up hiring, 4 of them.
Okay, awesome. How to keep yourself and your team strong to keep on going and try new things? What is the secret?
I think the secret is you have to be strong inside. And what I mean by that is that we do have certain things as part of our culture at CornerCase. And if we nurture the values that we have, they're going to grow into something bigger. And people will start talking about it, that it's not just something that we have on our website as our values, but that's really something that is happening here and something that is driving us forward. So what we started doing is really like paying a lot of attention what we care about and what our values are, being very vocal about it internally and telling the team, this is how we do things at CornerCase. These are the values that we follow and we live by those values. And it just felt different because people started also recommending their friends, and look, the number one value is growth. And by growth, we not only mean company growing in numbers, but it also means individual growth, your professional growth, even your personal growth. So that attracts a lot of people because they then want to be part of it, because it's not just going to work, write some code and then get paid for it. It's actually something more meaningful. And if you can resonate with those values, and if you also have those values as a person, I think that's something that attracts people more. And that's something that kind of also helps us grow and attract like-minded people, not just any people.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when you mentioned that you have many Python developers, so most of the companies have these type of programming languages and programmers in their teams, but it's not the whole team, right? So to have like-minded people and to talk about all the particular issues you're facing, it's something very valuable, I believe. So it's not only the project, but it's also the people you're working day to day, and you can share your thoughts and you can grow and learn from each other. Great.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's very important when we hire, and I remember, the shift I made in the interviews that I was running was really trying to get to know that person on a personal level. So really understanding, who is this person? What are the soft skills? What do they do after work? What do they care about? What values do they have, maybe in their families or, as an individual? So I think that really makes a huge difference, because not only it manages your expectation as a hiring manager from that person, but also at the end of the day, you work with people. So it's not just doing the work, it's much more than that. Because if you connect on the personal level, I feel like you can do much more than you would otherwise.
Right. I totally.
And another thing was that I also started doing, and my focus then creating a new job description or talking to a person the first time, I really pay a lot of attention to expectation management, because there are a lot of companies that only highlight the best, that they have, and the best that they can show. Oh, we are the number one company in XYZ, and they're very proud of it. And that's fine. But I think it's very important to bring up also the challenges that the person will be encountering. And so that on the first day and all the days following, they know exactly what they decided to join to, So it's not like on the 5th day, oh, I didn't know that you have this. Oh, I didn't know that I would have to deal with this crap or something, So it's really kind of drawing this realistic picture of the expectation, and also giving a prospect of where it can lead, because there are so many unknowns. You can't really promise everything, or you don't know how things might turn, in the future, but you say, look, we are a growing organism as a company. There might be a lot of opportunities. I can't tell you right now. We don't have a 5-year plan structure. This is where you can move, so it's really like so flexible, but kind of having a very, very clear picture of who we are as people, not only as professionals, and who you are. It's really something that I guess changed the game in recruitment.
Awesome. Great. So to sum up, maybe you could summarize and what would be the key advice for other recruiters or startup founders when facing with challenges in attracting talented people?
Yeah, so I think every company is very unique and they need to find their own way that is working for them the best. So my advice would be not to be afraid to experiment and try. I really do believe that having a safe environment to fail is the right environment, because this way you really encourage people to do things, and only by doing you learn. So that would
Only
be
by
the only...
failing.
Yeah, by doing and failing you learn, exactly. So that would be my, I guess, key advice.
Great.
Don't try to play safe all the time.
Great. Thank you, Egle. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your stories.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to all the listeners. For more podcasts, please visit jobrely.com.